If it is not in the archives, then it does not exist.
It's funny because I sent you that one. All
Yeah.
right, all right, all right, all right.
That's still one of my favorite quotes from that one too, and that's why I was tickled pink when you sent it.
I do love to Master Skywalker because someone removed it from the archive memory. I love it. It's so good. Welcome back, everybody. Another happy landing. I convinced Tanner to film not on our usual time. Then I convinced Tanner to film not only on our usual time, but not on our usual day. And then I convinced Tanner last minute, don't film at the new time and the new day. Let's film in the evening beforehand. So it's late at night.
What could possibly go wrong?
We're ready to talk and review Attack of the Clones. If you couldn't figure that out from the quotes, then you're probably not a Star Wars fan. But we're here to review Attack of the Clones. We'll just start this like we did our Phantom Menace, and I'll just throw it to Tanner right here. Or I guess before we get too far into it, thank you to the Movie Meal patrons, Steve, Kimberly, Karen. Go get some Movie Meals merch. Not currently wearing any of the merch. I'm sorry, but I got the mug right there. I'm wearing an anime hoodie, though. Go Cross no High, Haikyuu, a little volleyball. But let's just get into it. We'll just talk about it, just our overall thoughts, things about Attack of the Clones, where we rank it. So, Tanner, what was this like for you reviewing Attack of the Clones for the first time in a while? What was your history with it? Where are you at?
Loved it when I was a kid. Then the opinion went drastically down when I got older, and initially I actually always thought Phantom Menace was worse. And then, as time went on, I start to really kind of eke closer and closer until it's dropped down, and it's still pretty low down there. I'll be straight. Though, I mean, maybe slightly. You know what? No, I can't even say that. It's still pretty damn low. No, it's like I was kind of talking to you of there are some really good moments in this movie and in any Star Wars movie that I really enjoy. One of the most hype moments, just to talk about get the positives out there, to say it's nice to throw something good before you really kind of dive into the bad. But dude, the entire end attack sequence when the clones show up and they actually start to attack and we start to see what's happening. Oh man, still gets me hype and I still love it. I will say that I way more liked the big battle that erupts on Geonosis outside of the Colosseum a lot more before. Now that I've kind of watched it again, I'm not as crazy on it. It's still really fun to just see a bunch of clones blasted away at droids and droids bringing up their entire army, blasting away at each other. Rockets flying everywhere, the Republic gunships going. Awesome. But I guess, just the way that it's shot, the battle feels a little, amorphous, maybe a little, rudderless. There's not a whole lot of direction to it, and you don't exactly know where you're at, what's going on. They have random scenes where Yoda, will show, I especially remember, 3 or 4 different scenes where it's, complete screen swipe, we go to this one little section of the battle, or somewhere else on the planet, and all of a sudden they're like, Master Yoda, all forces are converging on this position. Very good. Screen swipe, move to something else. And you're like, could we have not fleshed that scene out a little bit more? Let me think. Other good things that I did. Oh,
off of that real quick. I remember as a kid when the battle started and the clones picked them up, then they felt very prepared, they had been there and they had taken the time to build. And I remember as a kid being like, how did they get there so quick? They've already got stations set up. I was like, how? And I still think that today, where it's how is it so quick, George? They just showed up on the planet. How's this quick? But anyway, what was your other thing?
I guess just other positives real quick. I actually really like all the investigation stuff that's happening with
Daddy
Obi-Wan.
One Kenobi.
Daddy One Kenobi, baby. No, that was all very fun still. But I mean, that just kind of feels like a classic Star Wars thing of him going out and trying to explore we just had a senator that's been assassinated. Now let's try to find out what's going on. And also, didn't expect to actually like it as much as I did, but dude, the entire like car chase scene that we get throughout Coruscant, I still love it. Now,
it is fun.
I had the speeder that the changeling assassin was in as a kid. I had that little toy, and I maybe this is why I love this way too much. Is like it even had like the action of you would like fly it into a wall, and then the front end would crumple, and then all the other pieces would like pop off of it. Oh
That's
man,
awesome.
it was good. It was good.
I always hated that line where he goes, "I think she's a changeling," because the way he says it is it, and I've felt this every time I've ever watched it as a kid till now. It sounds like he's saying she's a changing, like the normal word changing, and
Yeah.
it just feels weird because it sounds like that. And I know that
Right.
she's not. She's but
Right,
it's changeling, but it's just funky. That line gets me. I do think out of the three scripts, it actually is the worst. And I do like that scene though, because we do get a little bit of fun banter with Obi-Wan and Anakin in the car chase scene, all the way even up through the I just love it when where are you going, Master? For a drink. And he just said, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's so great. Sorry, you had another thing.
Oh, I just playing off that as well. Like that bar scene is also just fun. I mean, he walks in there. Hey, you want to buy some death sticks? No, I don't want to buy. No, I don't want to buy any death sticks. Oh, you don't want to buy any death sticks. You want to go home?
What did you
and
watch
rethink
it
your
on?
life. I watched it on Disney Plus.
So I did too, and when the movie started in the corner, the like top left corner, when it says where, you know, like if it's Game of Thrones or something, it's like nudity, violence, and it said like drug, like I can't even remember, but it wasn't drug use. It was like it was something that's saying like, hey, these aren't real drugs, but there is some sort of like pushing of drugs on there. And I remember being like, oh, that's for the death sticks. I was like, wow, that one line of death sticks, and Disney's like, make sure you put in something so that the kids know that there's drugs in this movie. It's like, all right, guy.
Death sticks are bad, kids.
Yeah, that line is great too. You want to go home and rethink your life? I want to go home and rethink my life. He just flubs it and heads out. But I'm just going to say this off the top because I know we said it at the end technically for Phantom Menace, but this is the lowest for me of the two. I put a Phantom Menace above this. I do think it's the worst script from top to bottom. I do think the car chase scene is fun. Because Ian McGregor is so charismatic and I just love Obi-Wan so much that I tend to enjoy all the Geonosis stuff just because I love him. But the stuff on Naboo is like, it's bad. It's super bad. And there's one moment where I kind of felt little butterflies. And I was like, wow, this is working. And it's when they're laughing and rolling around and he tricks her that she thinks he's dead. That one moment, I was like, all right, they're in love. I felt it there. The rest of the time, I don't feel it. The sand, the kiss, the pear, it's all bad.
There was one other moment that I remember them having like a good little bit of banter back and forth between each other, and I'm thinking it was pretty cute, but now I'm having a hard time remembering it.
Is it when they're about to go out into the Coliseum and they kiss and they have their like longing kiss? She says, I love you. Because I don't even think that plays super great.
No, I think it was just before they hopped on the ship. I forget exactly what the line of dialogue was, but I just remember either them being on the ship or right before they get on the ship that I was like, oh, that's a cute little banter moment that they have.
There are moments because, look, Natalie Portman's an Oscar-winning actress, and Hayden Christensen's a better actor than people give him credit for, but he just really struggled to get roles after this. But he's in some good little movies. But a great actor like Natalie Portman and, somebody who's got some talent like Hayden Christensen, they're going to pull off a small moment on a horrible script. And they do in both movies, I think this and Revenge of the Sith. But for the most part, that Naboo stuff is brutal. It's not good. And the story is very fast paced. I mean, we jump quick. And Anakin, I mean, it's Padme comes across a little creepy in the first one, and Anakin comes across creepy in the second one. And it's just like when he first gets there, it's the lines where they argue in the beginning where he's like, "We will find who's killing you," and Obi-Wan's like, "No, we won't." And then Obi-Wan ends up doing it anyway. But like that banner when he's like, "You will learn your place," like it's. That is so bad, it's uncomfortable. Like, I was sitting there being like, man, I'm uncomfortable because this is so poor dialogue right now.
It's such a kicker, too, because I remember that video that I sent you. That was the main reason I sent that video is I have never watched Attack the Clones. Well, it's my least viewed Star Wars movie. Probably outside of something like some of the newer ones, Solo is definitely on the low end.
Skywalker.
Yeah. So it's on the low end, but recently watching, there was that scene, I just completely getting a new context of it with the, I don't like sand, it's rough, it's coarse, and it gets everywhere. But not here, everything's soft. You're soft. And then he, like, rubs his hand across her like, arm and back, and it's like, oh! No,
at that moment, I was, because of the books, I was like, bring out the handmaidens! I'd rather watch the handmaidens! Like, I was like, come on! Where's her guard? I care more about this! Like,
dude!
Let me see Sabe!
There was another line that happened in, it was right as they were packing their bags up to leave, and then Obi-Wan, they were in her room, and she was packing up, and Anakin was talking to her about, like, Obi-Wan's just holding me back. It's not fair. God, it is, just between the whole, like, it's not fair. They're doing so terrible things. I deserve more. And the, just I don't know, just the overall whininess. It sucks. It does.
But not just the men, but the women and the children.
God.
Yeah, that all happens. This is a quick movie. A lot happens, and when he gets to Tatooine and he gets to Mos Eisley and he finds Uncle Owen and Bro, like that whole moment is what it is. But when it's convenient that he gets to his mom and she is still alive for her last moments alive. She gets to see her son. A little convenient. Force is a little convenient. I did think that moment was actually touching.
Yeah.
And I liked that moment. That's one of the
best emotional moments. That's one of the most emotional moments in this entire movie. It really
I
is.
agree. And when he kills everybody, that's dark side is all heck. I like the switch to the Yoda stuff because then Yoda going, man, I can sense Skywalker is in a lot of pain right now. And it plays off of the first movie. There's a through line, Rise of Skywalker. There's a through line. And I like those little moments. There are a lot of little moments that do play well. But then when he has that whole freak out, like I remember watching, because I'm deliberately trying to really analyze it this time with you during this rewatch. And I was sitting there like it reminded me of moments I've had in like some of my favorite hate watch shows where it's like, there it is. That's what it's gone. Like they have like 2 seconds of where it's the acting, the writing, everything is perfect. And like there was a moment where I was like, Hayden's selling it. It was maybe 3 seconds. I was like, Hayden's selling it. The dialogue is solid. This is working. The emotion is hitting, and then it's ruined. Like, and that whole scene where they argue, and she comforts him, and he's throwing a fit, and he throws the like tool way too far across the room.
That's the moment that Padme should have been like, oh my god, I need to get out of this.
she's just as crazy though. We gotta be honest. Padme is just as crazy because she does all this crazy stuff too. And even watching, as we've started the Clone Wars already after finishing Attack of the Clones, and we're only a few episodes in, but like even this early Padme stuff, I'm like, yep, she is crazy. Like she's a senator and she's out here being a full-fledged hero, and I love Padme, but like, what are we doing here?
Right. Oh man.
And I
but
do
like speaking of Clone Wars. Oh, sorry. Go for it.
No, you go for it. You go for it.
Just thinking, speaking of Clone Wars, I couldn't actually, weirdly enough, since we had actually just started back into this, I couldn't help but compare the Anakin in the Clone Wars to Anakin in Attack of the Clones. And
different Anakin. From the moment Anakin's on screen, it's so different. It feels like we've jumped a few years. And we have, haven't we?
We have.
There is a time jump.
I don't think it's a huge... I want to say it's half a year.
Yeah, it's a few months or something like that.
Because the course of the Clone Wars is basically covering that entire 3-year gap between Attack of the Clones and... It's
long enough for him to go from being whiny and you will learn your place to you get a Padawan.
Well, that's entirely... They treat him very differently. And this is what kills me, is if we had... The Anakin that we see in there is confident and full of charisma. He has all of these wonderful little, like, witty banter, like, back and forth moments that make me fall in love with that character. And it just kills me knowing that we get that product. And if they had taken that direction and put that with Anakin, like, really kind of lean more into these, like, instead of this ultra cringe, super creep move that he's about to make on Padme, we get all of these, like, fun, cute, witty little banters that we're getting back and forth. Maybe, you know, like, we keep some of the, like, the political thoughts on, like, political conversations and whatnot in there, as they're just, like, I don't know, just falling in love, flirting, being charismatic with each other. That, like, how much more that would have sold it.
I think there's a few problems there getting into the technical parts of it. And I think the problem is I think George's direction for live action and Hayden's young acting status at that time, I think it's just, the problem is because there is witty banter, there is the love, but he goes way too far in both directions. So because I do like the witty banter when when the car chase scene with Obi-Wan, I think that is, I mean, that is Anakin from the Clone Wars to me, but it's very over the top a bit and it makes for fun. But then when we get to the love stuff, it's way over the top. Now, also, didn't Clone Wars originally air on Cartoon Network and then on Disney after Disney bought Lucasfilm? So so here's my other thing. George, when he made these movies, had no one to say no. No one said no. Everybody said yes. They were yes man. It's detailed in the great novel that is hidden over there somewhere. How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. Great book. Really diving into the deepness of how Star Wars really came to be what it is and all the way through the prequels. And George just had yes man everywhere. And if he had people to say no, like he did with the original trilogy, we get a very different movie. And George can direct actors. This whole misnomer that he's that horrible, I think, is unfair because I've seen, like, American Graffiti, and that's a really good movie that he made. And Harrison Ford's great in it. Future Star Wars director Ron Howard acts in that, and he is great. And so I think that because Cartoon Network said no to things for his Clone Wars show, and he had Dave Filoni that he was teaching with, but Dave had just finished had been working a lot on Avatar: The Last Airbender and how Nickelodeon had ran some things and the creators of that show and how they ran stuff, and he brought that to the table. Because I think Star Wars had this weird problem where it started with George. George brought people to the table. It got great. Then he kicked everybody out of the table. It was just George, and it didn't go great. Then Lucasfilm was like, all right, we're going to bring everybody to the table because that was the problem. And then when some people complained, they kicked everybody out of the table. And it just didn't work. We didn't have any consistency. And I think that's why the Clone Wars, you end up getting that Anakin. And you even get that Anakin a little bit in the Clone Wars horrible movie, like the animated one. I think you get that same kind kind of Anakin. The movie's just really bad, but he is so different from the get-go. Like, he feels more mature. He feels like he's cocky, but he's changed. And I would guess if you were to ask George Lucas, he would say, well, the death of his mother is a big reason. He kind of dove into himself. He does get more cocky because he was already cocky. Like, everything just amped.
Right.
But it is a huge transition, and thank God for the Clone Wars show, because it really helps make this movie a little bit better, because
yes,
what's coming.
It's single-handed. I mean, I know some people would disagree with me on this one, but I personally think that the character as a whole, Anakin, it redeems, and that's what the Clone Wars really helps to do. I do agree. I do agree with the criticism that a lot of people, or some of our friends, might even have to level towards it. Of a movie should be able to stand on its own. You shouldn't have to go to exterior sources to make it a good story. That you're not telling a good story if you need to go read another story to do that. That's just kind of how that works. But as a character arc that we get from episode 1 all the way to episode 3, with everything in between, Clone Wars and all, it just makes makes the Anakin character so much better, so much more believable. Because, I mean, even, this is just me thinking about before going from episode 2 to episode 3, there's a serious, shift in Anakin. And there's a lot of things that we don't know why he is behaving the way, why he has so much hate that's been generated towards, either other Jedi or, why is it that he is so willing to go from, everything's okay to I'm slaughtering younglings all of a sudden. Whereas Clone Wars really builds everything up. We get Filoni that's behind there that he's like, what? Okay, there's an excellent story here that George has told, and an excellent bone structure that's been created, but I need to flesh this out. But I don't know. I still lean back on, if we had gotten that more cocky Anakin from, we get in the car chase scene, take a little, back off from the whininess, and any sort of, quote unquote romance scenes that we get, just add some charisma to it. Let's spice this up, take it away from the cringe, and like you're talking about. Why wasn't anyone saying no? Well, I mean, it's George Lucas. I mean, he's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, so of course it's going to be nothing but yes men behind him. But I mean,
well, especially after what he did. It's after the empire he built. He's created the technology that we have today. We don't get Endgame without George Lucas. He built everything, and everybody's like, man, we can't say no. At that point, he's God. It's how do we say no to this guy? I didn't mean to cut you off, though. I want you to finish your thought.
I still really think that it was close. The shining moments that we get, like you're talking about, we get these excellent just sections where you're like, yes, it's right there. If you could just flesh it out from that point, it would have been perfect. I guess I just think of there's 3 particular scenes that are kind of popping up in my head that just make me, when it comes to the romance scenes, that make me really uncomfortable. One was, I think Padme at one point in time it says why are you staring at me like that? It's and then she's like, no, don't. It makes me uncomfortable. If we had leaned, it a little less creepy, I think I don't know, maybe take back off from that. Again, add a little bit more charisma to it. Have her still respond of no, you're still making me uncomfortable. And then he kind of takes it back and regroups to really kind of come back at it. Another scene, obviously, the arm touching scene. Why couldn't we have, instead of getting this sand monologue, why couldn't we get something more akin of the, just a cute little back and forth between the two,
Yeah.
To share a nice little smile, a good little laugh between each other, and then that eventually leads into a very natural kiss rather than this really creepy forced thing. And then the other scene that made me wildly uncomfortable was when they're sitting by the fireplace, not discussing politics. Gosh darn it! You remember what I'm talking about? Like Padme's in like the super black clad dress, and they're just. Well, I'm totally spacing it out right now, but I forget what they're talking about.
Scene is.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a moment I really feel as though they could have led into it, and that's why it feels so at odds when all of a sudden they wheel out into the theater, into the Coliseum. All of a sudden she's like, "I truly, deeply love you," and it's like, I don't believe this for 2 seconds. Everything that this character's been telling us is like, no, this guy's a creep. I shouldn't be doing this. But anywho,
I think so. Like, I was looking up Hayden's IMDb, and he's in a couple TV movies, maybe a movie here and there, and some small roles and some TV work. But they originally wanted Leonardo DiCaprio for this role. This was his first big role, and Leo turned it down. But Leo would have put in a better performance. It would have amped the movie. It would not have probably saved the movie. But Leo was doing things like What's Eating Gilbert Grape. He had really been trained, and he was already stretching himself and understanding what it's like to be an actor and to do things like that. So he could have done what Ian did, or Ewan McGregor off of George's kind of just be sad direction. I do want to mention this. I completely agree. I 100% agree. A story should stand on its own. But here's the deal. When The Hobbit gets published, you don't say, the story stands on its own, why would I read the sequel, The Lord of the Rings? You don't say that when that book comes out. And it's because books are treated differently. You get a book series. Right. When George R. R. Martin says, look, I'm going to put up a prequel, it's part of my big, giant story, you don't say... you can say, hey, I should only read, the main books, but that's not the full story. Right, and in television and in movies, like it's in MCU, WandaVision is a show. Like, there's no reason to say, like, WandaVision would fit exactly in with Clone Wars. There's no reason to say, why would I watch that? It's something separate. This movie should stand. Yes, the movie should stand on its own. The book should stand on its own. The Hobbit should be good. It is. Lord of the Rings is also incredible. Boom, there you go. George missed on a movie, but then went and said, look, I'm going to make another story, amp it up, and it's awesome. It's awesome. And so I think there's a little bit of unfairness sometimes with that, because I think I know the friend of ours you referenced there, who will never listen to this show. And I think I've got some fair points there where you really look at those different stories. It amps the stories up. It helps fix the problems. It really did turn it from, I don't really think about the prequels because Anakin has a crazy arc and I just kind of prefer Vader, to, all right, I can tolerate it. Like, I can handle it. Right. And maybe I even like it. Like, it's helped. I watched Attack of the Clones a lot as a kid. I ran those DVDs out of the craziness. I do love the Geonosis fight in the Coliseum. It makes no sense while they're showing off these deaths. It makes no sense. It's just a culture thing for them. But if Dooku's smart, he should be like, no, we should kill Obi-Wan the second he said no, he won't be on my side. Like, they should. They're Siths. But I do love the Yoda fight. I love when Yoda just gets the saber with the Force. I think it's really cool. The flipping, the fact that Count Dooku is old as all heck, and he's like, we're gonna battle with our saber talent or whatever, and they're just crazy flipping, or it's the crazy like camera light movement, and you can tell that they're barely moving their arms. Yeah. Of that stuff. It's bad, but I kind of dig it.
I hated that scene. I despise that fight scene. As they're like, it does like a close pan on Hayden Christensen or on Christopher Lee, and all you see is just the light in front of them. That's all you see is just like the movement of the red and the blue. You don't even hear any like clashing of like sabers or anything like that.
And I'll say this though, and I have no facts to base this up, but you wonder if George, the reason he did that is because he knew, look, Count Dooku needs to be an older actor. But I've already established in this world, Jedi, and it's true with ancient Japanese culture. No matter how old you are, the samurai's got the blade, and if he needs to, pick it up again, he will. Will he be as good? No, because he's old, but he will. You look at even movies like Mulan. Her dad's hurt, and he still is willing to fight. Like it's something that is just in the lore of Star Wars, and I just think George probably for years just heard about how you have to. There's no, like, I already believe this, and I have no facts to back this up, but there's no way that people for the entire time between episode 6 before he makes episode 1 that he doesn't just hear the complaints for 30 years about, well, why didn't Obi-Wan be, why couldn't you figure out how to make Obi-Wan fight better? They just kind of poked sticks, like he was probably like, look, Christopher Lee's old. This is the best we can do right now. So this is what we're going to do to make it cool. So I give him a little bit of props for trying. Does it come across great? Not at all. The light flickering's bad. It's bad. I would prefer the CGI stunt double to that, but
the problem is I do think there are a couple of good moments in the fight scene that I do see followed up. They particularly talk about, I don't know if you ever actually had a hold of the old there was those old diagram books that they had, like breaking down everything in the movie.
I've got one in my classroom.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, I thought it's not a movie one. I think it's just like all the ships in Star Wars.
Well, there's a couple.
There's the early 2000s, yeah.
Yes, there's like the ships. There's like the ship speeders and something compendium that shows all of that.
That's what I have, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also the ones do like a breakdown of everything that was in the movie, and they talk about like specifically in that like Dooku's fighting style and so on, being way more of like a fencer and that kind of a thing, and that's why his lightsaber hilt is shaped in the way that it is, because it's meant to be a fencing blade.
And that's cool. That's cool to me.
That's really cool.
Detail.
But something I really wish they had leaned into with the choreography is
fencing.
A little bit, yeah. Listen, if you make a lightsaber fight entirely fencing, that's going to be boring. That's just going to be so boring.
True. But side tangent, it's one of the things Star Wars does not do. Where George tried to do it, and the sequels I don't think tried, bringing in different styles of, and yes, they brought in a different style of blade with Kylo Ren's, but we had already seen that in Rebels. If you had already watched Rebels, that those blades with the hilts were like that, but we don't actually see him really use it. We do a couple of times, but like it'd be cool to see different fighting styles that different Jedi have. Like with the, I have a fencing blade because I learned a more elegant style of swordsmanship. There's so many. I think of back to this really fun show that used to be on Spike TV. Deadliest Warrior. Yeah. Great show.
Oh, love that show.
We should get on Discord sometime and just watch old eps. That would be a blast.
I'd be so down for that.
Pound back some blue milk. It would be great. But like when you watch that show, what I loved about that show was you learned so much about different fighting styles, and I can hear already just from that show alone think of different swords and the different swordsmen and styles over the years, and it's one of the things Star Wars never did, and so I give George a little bit of props for things like that, because they didn't really try in the sequels very much to do it. And it's a bummer because it would be cool to see new styles of fighting, because even Rey, who decides I'm going to change my fighting style, that's not new. We've watched Ahsoka do that for years. she really just kind of copies us. Like, the dream everybody wanted was for her to make it part of her staff and to combine her saber with that to create some sort of spear. And that would have been way cooler because we would have brought in a new style of fighting. That is what history and being a warrior is all about. Like, it's adapting and changing. If that would have just been cool. I'm sorry, I've gone on a huge tangent, but
no, I completely agree with you. And I mean, I wish that they had done a little bit more of that in this one.
Yes, and I agree.
In that, like, the fight scene, it goes by relatively quickly, and I mean, you know what? I'm fine with that. It's just what I would have preferred is a little bit more of the action of leave Christopher Lee in the single spot because of his advanced age, and really kind of make it to the point where he is the guy, like, he is the person in control in the room that has the whole, like, block, counter, boom, you're down. And then, all of a sudden, Obi-Wan comes up. Block. We're going to go for a little bit. And boom, you're down. Cool. I love that. And then we can keep the Yoda scene as it is. I personally kind of prefer Yoda being a little bit more of a mystic of the old wise Jedi that doesn't need to... Yeah. And also, can we talk about... Oh, man, the line of this... Obviously, this battle can not be settled by ability in the Force, but by skills with a lightsaber. It's like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, it's a little cheesy. I mean, even before that with Obi-Wan, where he's like, my Jedi powers are far superior to yours when he shoots lightning, and then all Obi-Wan does is block it. And he's like, I don't think so. And it's very kiddish. It's very childish.
Yeah, it is.
I do think back to, though, Revenge of the Sith. Because, I mean, obviously we know what's coming. I haven't watched it yet, obviously. But, Yoda loses that fight. And I think it shows that he is a bit more of a mystic, and that moment was just George being like, let's give him one moment where Yoda's really cool with a saber because we'll sell toys. But, like, Yoda's not that, and he's obviously incredibly wise, he's incredibly powerful with the Force, but it takes a lot out of him to use that. I mean, and I think we see it drain him a bit when he has to flip around so much, because he has to use the Force to do all that. And he loses. I mean, the greatest Jedi to ever live so far in our lore loses at Revenge of the Sith. Like, everybody reveres him, and he ends up losing. And I think you see that a bit in Attack of the Clones when he does flip around. But I have so much nostalgia for it as a kid.
That's
watching
the thing.
it.
I'm in the same boat.
So cool.
I'm in the same boat, man. Like, I don't get me wrong. Like, I'm used to Yoda being the Dagobah old wise master. But dude, as a kid, you see that for the first time, you're like, oh man, we're about to see him just go off. This is gonna be so exciting.
So my mom and dad got one of the first ever cars that had we had this old huge van that had a VHS huge TV in the middle. It was the first ever TV. And then when they got first ever DVDs players in cars, we got one. My parents got a new car, and my brother and I, any road trip, I don't know why I'm holding a pencil, by the way, just ADHD, I guess. But my brother and I, it was no, we're watching Star Wars. And we had to plug the little headphones in up top, and we would run those, and we would be sitting in the car, and Yoda would just move his coat a little bit and fly his saber over to his hand, and my brother and I'd be like, ah! Just freaking from the car, Silverwood or something. I do have a question, though. A complete change of subject, because I think this is a very interesting moment in Star Wars history, and I want to talk about it. I'm glad we're doing this late, because I'll have more energy tonight. So, Star Wars, up until this moment, we've never seen anything but green, blue, and red lightsabers. And then we get purple. And whenever you hear Mark Hamill talk about it, you just hear him say, well, Samuel L. Jackson, and he gets what he wants. And you hear the story Sam tells on interviews where he just says, I said to George, I would like a different color lightsaber, like a purple one. And George said, no, there's only 2 colors for Jedi. And then he said, and then Samuel L. Jackson says he saw the movie and he had a purple one. And when that happened, I don't think it was intentional, because the fallout of it was that Mace Windu is a very powerful Jedi who, the reason he has a purple lightsaber is because he will draw from the dark side during battle. And that's why the Kyber crystal changes. And I do think Samuel Jackson plays him very angry when, like, in that fight. I noticed it watching this movie. In that fight in Geonosis, he's really ticked off. Like, he's not happy. And
absolutely.
But there's no way George had that pre-planned. He thought of a way to make him happy and to fix it in the lore. And I'm curious what you think of that, because that has spawned now thousands of different colors. Technically in canon, we have two more colors. We have Ahsoka's gray and Rey's yellow in canon. That would be it. And then the dark saber.
The yellow first existed with the Temple Guard in
yes,
Clone Wars.
Forgot about that.
Clone
That's
Wars.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't wait to get that. I love the Temple Guard stuff.
Yeah.
Best episodes of the Clone Wars and Rebels to me are the ones where we just get deep into the mystic of the Force. But anyway, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? Just in general, with the movie, with the history, just everything.
In general, I'm actually incredibly. Listen, like me as a fan, and just like all of it, I actually love the fact that we get so many different other colors of lightsaber. I really love it. I really do. The main reason that they obviously do it is for customizations with lightsabers, so they can sell other colors. I mean,
oh yeah, it's for toys.
Yeah, it's for toys. Absolutely. I personally really like that. I don't know if you ever played what was it? Knights of the Old Republic /
Oh yeah.
So the MMO that they came out with as well of the Old Republic.
Probably.
Well, there was a lot of like customization in there, and I mean, even if you played a Darkside Sith, it wasn't just a red lightsaber that you had. You had red, you had yellow, you had purple actually being one, and then a black saber with the white outline, much like the dark saber, except for it didn't have that blade like section to it. Obviously that's not canon, but the thing that I like about that they talk in lore is, I mean, each Kyber crystal one actually denotes what order or like what you belong to. Like, for instance, the old lore of it used to be the blue lightsaber belonged to the warriors, those that were way more like attuned in actually fighting with a blade, whereas green
was wisdom
and exploring of the Force.
Yeah.
And so as more lightsabers colors came out, they really kind of did the same thing with that. And I really like it. I really do.
The problem is it just doesn't fit in the lore, because like Obi-Wan's using a blue one all day, and then somebody tosses him in the Coliseum a green one. Like, you know what I mean?
True. In that particular situation, I mean, I think in that situation it's way more of just like once we see him again after he's lost his lightsaber, then it's like he's got his blue one. He's got a blue one back again. You know what I mean? In that moment, it was way more of just like, okay, you guys are out of lightsabers. Here's an extra one.
Yeah.
Which
I've always. Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh no! I go for it.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong. We don't get a whole lot in the shows or anything about the connection with the Kyber crystals. I know we touch on it. I know Ahsoka. We have that episode where she goes with the Padawans or the younglings, and they get their crystals and everything. But we don't really have like exposition on what they really do. It's part of or like how they're connected and the colors and everything. And like in Fallen Order, which is now canon, you can pick any saber you want. You can run around with the red one, and you're a Jedi the whole time. But I've always kind of liked it, and this is kind of just how I view it, that a crystal is like a sorting hat in Harry Potter. Right. That the crystal calls to you. I mean, that is canon. We see it in that Youngling episode where the crystals, the kids have to find them. It's part of the Jedi test. But I've always thought of it, once it's in the saber and once it's built. So let's say somebody, because they build extra lightsabers. So somebody, who is wisdom, and believes in, Qui-Gon Jinn following the deepness of the Force, if he builds 5 of them, to me, once the crystal is in there, connected and activated to the saber, it is permanently that Jedi saber. And if it's taken, the color does not change because it was a connection the crystal had with that Jedi, whether or not that Jedi has died and, the saber is moved on. And that's why Anakin's, to me, stays blue, because it's Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, and when he turned it on, he was a warrior, and that's what the sorting crystal hat thing chose. The Kyber crystal chose was that this guy's a warrior, he's going to be a warrior, and that when he makes a new one and he's now turned, he's red. You are a Sith, so it's red. That's how I've always viewed it, and I've always liked that when you rebuild it, when you build a new one, you could change. And that when Luke builds his green one, he isn't a warrior anymore. He's lost, and he's searching for help, so he's wisdom. Yeah. And I do love that scene. I wish they had kept it in the movie. I love that deleted scene of him going back and building a lightsaber and learning how to build a lightsaber.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was just curious on your thoughts, because I've always loved. Well, actually, I'm going to continue my question. I'm going to expand it, because I really like the different color lightsabers. I don't like that everybody has them. I don't like that Rey is yellow at the end, because I think there's no reason other than get Rey's yellow lightsaber. That's the reason to it.
Oh, that's literally the only reason.
And it's also, I don't know if you've seen this, but when she turns it on, you can see in the inside that it actually is every color. It changes colors. It goes like blue, red, green. It like hits all the colors and then pops up yellow. And the point is supposed to be that she's like she's all of the, like she's the Avatar, which she could have been if JJ wasn't an idiot. Honestly, Chris Terrio. But sorry, getting off topic. I like some of the expansions with that stuff. Like, I like that Mace Windu's is purple, because he does draw on his anger in fights. And he knows, though, that when it gets down to it, he needs to remember that he is a Jedi and he gives peace, things like that. I like those moments. Gray Jedi with the temples and everything. Like, I'm all for it for the most part. Where do you stand on that kind of stuff? Because this movie started it. We've gotten off task, but this movie started it.
So you're talking about what I think of just Jedi
doing different things like that. Yeah.
I like it because I don't know. We don't get much of it in Jedi are really kind of surrounded in mysticism in the original trilogy. And so this one, once we get to the prequels, we really kind of get to expand it a little bit more. To me, I guess for two things, it really doesn't make sense to me to only have 2 colors of lightsabers. Strictly speaking, when we're talking about Jedi, it makes more sense to me for there to be a variety of it. I absolutely despise the one that you're talking about of, the multicolor of, I am all of the Jedi.
Well, I think that was just a little tease thing, and then that's what fans ran with. And I've seen the movie a few times, and it definitely does hit a bunch of colors before it goes yellow. And I think that's what JJ's point was. But I think it's stupid because you didn't build her up to be a good character. When we get to that movie, it's gonna be intense. It's gonna be intense. I'm gonna lose it.
I'm gonna have a whole written up essay on that one.
You need to watch my first ever reaction right after it, just parts of it before we do that one, because then because it's gonna go from that just pure depression to just pure rage. I'm going straight dark side. I don't care. I'm angry. But anyway, continue.
The Mace Windu one, I really do like. I really do actually like that whole expanded bit of lore, is that he is one of the few Jedi Masters that does seek some influences from the dark side of, he dips into it, but he is a master in being able to control it. And that's why, well, one, he's a master, and he's not fully dipping into the dark side. I really like that. And I think that it really works for the character because, I mean, Mace Windu, out of all of the characters on the Jedi Council, is literally the most intense one out of all of them. Even in the most serious moments, like Yoda is still very much like, pondering. I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, he looks mad
Kiara-Mundi is, Kiara-Mundi has got way more of like this inquisitive kind of feel about him. Very much trying to seek. He is very wise, but he's all just trying to parse things out before he throws his judgment out. Whereas Mace Windu, he really does kind of feel like he is the man in control of that room.
Yeah.
That if there is anything that does need to happen, that or I mean, a main line of questioning, that he's going to be the one that's going to take that point. He is the for lack of a better term, I guess, Yoda's good cop, he's bad cop.
Yeah.
And
Real
I don't know,
quick.
I guess, yeah.
If they announced Michael B. Jordan is playing a young Mace Windu on a Disney Plus show, you for it or you against it?
Oh God, I'm there. I am so there. If Michael B.
Would
Jordan,
love that.
I lose it.
There's been a
man.
lot of rumors about that Michael B. Jordan would be interested in playing a young Mace Windu.
Right.
That would be awesome. Like, that would be so great. Like, could you give me a young Mace Windu movie directed by Ryan Coogler with Michael B. Jordan? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
man.
That would be a great movie. Get out of here with people who don't want the connectivity and all these other, like, they want Brandon. No, I would love a young Mace Windu. That would be awesome.
That'd be so cool.
Michael B is just a new Jedi. That'd be great. Sorry, go ahead.
Two things circling back to the movie that I was thinking about. One, I actually paid way more attention when the Jedi show up to like rescue Padme, Anakin, and Obi-Wan. I've watched this movie enough that I knew what was happening in the foreground, that I looked way more at the background of what was happening. And
Yeah.
dude, I don't know what their directions were with some of the other Jedi that were doing extras behind there, but man, it was not great.
I know, yeah. There's some guys who are just told, just swing the sword around. Like,
Yeah.
it reminds me, and people are about to lose it, but if you watch this movie, it's true. It reminds me of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, because when Batman fights people, sometimes if you really pay attention to the guys who are not actually fighting Batman, some of them just fall down. They're not even
Right.
touched. It's a legit thing. Don't get mad at me. I love the Nolan movies, but my
They
goodness,
just fall
some
down
people,
in fear.
yeah, that's what makes Ben Affleck's Batman so cool. He just beats the living crap out of guys, and there's no... Anyway, getting off topic.
Yeah.
But,
Other good thing that I did actually love, and this part always makes me lose my mind every single time I watch it, is when they've just left Geonosis, and Obi-Wan's hot on the tail in space behind Jango Fett.
yeah.
And, it's time to, throw a little surprise his way.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's awesome.
The seismic charge makes me lose my mind every single time.
Yeah, I like...
Even
What do you think of Django?
He doesn't do much, but he looks cool, and I enjoy him being there. I do wish that they kind of fleshed him out a little bit more. Now that I come to think about it, this movie really doesn't seem like it has any sort of like central antagonist to really follow behind, because Dooku shows up
No.
like late end of the movie. Django doesn't pop up till like a third into it. Well, I mean, we see him for a second, then he jumps out, and then they have the fight. They come up on him, Kamino, and then they have the fight. And I think that's it's a seriously wasted opportunity.
Yeah. So you're okay that Boba Fett is a clone of a bounty hunter? You're okay with that whole... A lot of people hated it and still hate it, that Boba, their favorite bounty hunter, is actually a clone of another guy who then he raised the clone to be his son.
Weirdly enough, that's something that never really was that big of a sticking point to me.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, you can tell that there's a lot of love and affection that they have. Even though it is technically a clone, I still think of it as Jango Fett's son.
And that's how they treat it in the movie. That's how Jango treated him.
And that's how I think it should be. He wanted a son. He didn't have a partner or anything like that, so he just wanted a son to be able to raise his own. So I just think it's weird that, I mean, just because someone is cloned doesn't mean that they're, not as much of a as a father or a son. That bit doesn't make any sense to me. I guess it also circles back around to the whole stupid thing that I've come across of people saying like, oh, well, don't you want your own son instead of adopting? It's like, what? Are you kidding me that you won't, you're basically insinuating that you won't love this adopted child as much just because it's not technically your genes?
Look,
that's insane.
If we could clone to that extent now, there are people who would absolutely pay to have their genetics 100% born as their child, a clone of themselves, so they could fix the things they don't like about themselves. They would absolutely do that. That is 100% a thing people would do on this planet. And I am actually with you. I never loved it growing up, but every time I've rewatched these movies, I end up liking it more and more and just not caring. It's like Boba Fett's got a cool arc. He's fleshed out a bit more in a way I like. And now with Mandalorian, it has really helped. Like when he says the lines that his dad says, I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the galaxy. Like it hits because Jango isn't on there long. I do wish they fleshed him out a little bit more, especially with, where did he get Mandalorian armor? But at that time, they didn't even really have an idea of what's up with the Mandalorians.
Right.
And so I'm for it. It's a brutal kill. It might be one of the hardest kills out there because you can see the shadow of his head fly out of the helmet. Like it's intense. And for Boba to go through that, it gives a lot to a bounty hunter who becomes a foundling. Like, and I like it. I like it. He just took his father's gear and painted it and changed it up a bit, and I'm for it. I like the stuff with Boba.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, like, I know one of the biggest criticisms of these earlier movies is, like, we're going to take these characters you loved, and we're going to make them kids. Which, sure, maybe there's some, I guess I'm not a huge, it doesn't bother me that much, I guess. Like, I mean, seeing Anakin as a little kid on Tatooine isn't really something that bugs me. Oh gosh, what was seeing Boba Fett as a young boy doesn't really bug me. The fact that he's a clone doesn't really mean anything. If anything, I think it shows more love of them, between the two of them. But oh golly gee, so.
Nope.
If there was a few things that you could change about this movie, I don't want to be the revisionist because I mean, like, we're not the people directing this movie, so there it is. But I'm really curious as to what are some major things that you would change about the movie that you feel as though would make it. Bring it up a little bit more.
So if I had a time machine and I could go talk to George and sit him down and say, look, this is what's going to happen. Here's my ideas. What would I say to him?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is I would say you should write these movies with Lawrence Kasdan and let him take the lead like he does for episodes 5 and 6. And and I would say, George, you need to have people who will tell you no, because you have a lot of cool ideas, but you get a little too into your own head and it doesn't work when it translates. It does with the tech because you come up with the greatest tech, because I really do believe this movie struggles from the script up. I think your script is your foundation of your movie. A great director, a great editor, and a great actors can all fix a bad script. One great actor can fix a really bad script. A great director or an editor can fix that. Problem is George did everything. He wrote it, he directed it, he edited it, and it makes for a bad process. Having more hands in the kitchen in this environment is better. You need an assistant chef today. Everybody needs Remy on their head pulling the strings. And I think that's honestly what I would have him do. And I think Lawrence Kasdan gets Star Wars almost better than anybody else outside of Dave. And I can't say Dave Filoni, because Dave Filoni is working on Avatar: The Last Airbender at this point. He's not working on this movie. He's not involved. He has no experience. I think Dave has really grown over the years, so I don't want to pull his name. And Jon Favreau's not the great Jon Favreau that we know of yet. So it's hard to pull the new guys. So I would pull Lawrence Kasdan and say, write it with them. And if you should try harder to convince Spielberg, because I think he would say no to you and he'd make something pretty great. Especially for Revenge of the Sith. I wouldn't give him this one, but that's really what I'd say. I wouldn't have any specifics, maybe CGI. I might specifically say, look, you're going to do some wonky stuff with a fight scene with an old man and a young man. Well, let's not do that. I'd rather you skip the fight than film it that way. But outside of that, that is where I would start. I think it's a bad script, and I think you can tell more than anything. What would you say to old Georgie?
Honestly, I'm basically in step with that. In that, I don't know. It's you can keep. I think that you can keep the main bones of the main structure of where the plot goes, but you really need to bring in other people to see certain sections of it. For instance, the writing being one of the biggest ones. Come on, let's amp up some of these scenes. Again, I honestly do think they do a pretty good job when it comes to a lot of the Camino or Obi-Wan exploring in Geonosis. I still love him going to Dexter.
I do too. I love Dex.
Oh, buddy.
How big your pocketbook is. Just
how big your pocketbook is.
It's great.
Oh, man. Love it. I don't know. It's just writing. I think that you need a little bit more, bring other people for direction of action. Here's the thing is I really think that George's strong suit is building a universe and building a world. And
story, yeah.
Yes, and the story and the story of it. His script writing, I guess just he can tell a good story, but the actual dialogue in the script can be tough at times. Would you tell him not to direct it though? Because he gets a lot of flack for not being a great director, and even the actor
Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill have all come out and said the one thing George ever told me, would you have him not direct it?
What, the original trilogy or this?
No, the prequels basically is really I think where we're getting at here.
No, I still think that you let him do it, but he needed to have people, probably about 2 or 3 other people around him that he revered as other equal colleagues that could really rein him in as well, to be like, dude, you are taking this way too far. Come on, back it off. Let's really rethink this a bit.
I can't remember which director it is who's part of that Rat Pack. But he's the one who really complained. He's like, George, no one knows what your movie's about. You need to tell me what's going on. I have no clue. And that's how we get the text crawl. That's... Right. It's you need guys like that to be like, George, no one's got a clue. Because, man, when you watch those old documentaries and he sits and watches and he's looking at storyboards and he goes, look, we can do something really cool with the tech we've started to create to make it really look like this and get the detail here. I love that stuff. He just needs somebody to actually talk to the actors and to create the dialogue the actors are saying. And that's why because even in A New Hope, there's some of that, if you really watch, a lot of that hokiness is in the like, it's all the same stuff, and it's not there in the other two movies, and it's because they bring on other directors and other writers. Lawrence Kasdan wrote the other two movies and then wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, there's no reason he should not be brought in more often.
Right, absolutely.
Makes me crazy. I hope I answered your question.
I think that answers my questions for the most part. I mean, what? So, with the product that we did get, what would you rate it?
Like out of 10?
Yeah, out of 10.
Oh, brutal.
I know it's a tough one.
I think
so. Yeah, I'll allow you to do this. You can do a personal rating, and you can do what you would
like
consider
an
objective rating. Yes,
like a filmmaker rating. So for myself, I used to have this written down somewhere. I don't think I have it written down anymore, but I wrote down like what my ratings are. Because to me, like a 1 is like god awful, like just straight garbage. And I don't think I've ever given a 1. I don't think I've ever given anything lower than a 4. And to me, I think a 4 is like wow, like I regret watching this. To me, a 5 is I don't regret you, but you were pretty bad. Like I don't regret giving it an opportunity, but it was very, very bad. 6 is like
most movies tend to fall in between the
6 to
10,
5.5
to like
sure, or 9.
Yeah, 6 to 10. 6 to 10. Most movies lie in that mark.
And to me, 6 is I don't regret you. I enjoyed parts of you, but you were more bad than good. To me, that's what 6 is. So I would probably objectively give it a 6 out of 10. I'd probably give a Phantom Menace a 6.5. And personally, I just bumped that up each a point. I'd probably give this 6.5, and I would probably give like Phantom Menace a 7. Just because, I mean, because I also would throw in rewatchability, but because it's Star Wars, I rewatch these movies regardless. Like I'm not usually rewatching a 6.5 often. So,
but also, I mean, I like on that side as well. It's like. I would much rather go back and rewatch the prequels, even though objectively they're hot garbage.
Yeah.
At times, I'd much rather go watch those than some of the new content that they've released. Not all, but some.
Rise of Skywalker might be a 5 for me or lower. Like I really don't like it. So we'll get there. We'll get there because I gotta rewatch it and give it a fair shot. But.
Two things, I guess, on a movie thing I also wanted to say is music. John Williams, still killing it.
Always.
And always. He doesn't come out with anything, like, new in this one.
Yeah, we're not nerding out like we did last week, last episode for the Duel of the Fates fight. Like, we're not. There's no moment where those violins come in and it hits hard.
They use Duel of the Fates when Anakin's riding across the fields of Tatooine, and that starts to pop up as he's like, and I'm like,
it does.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm with you, but like, there's no moment in this movie where I really freak out, and I'm like, yeah, because it's new and it's different. You don't go back and think of the themes in Attack of the Clones. You just don't.
There is one. I guess there's one theme, but to be honest, a lot of the music in this one is actually recycled from Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Though we do hear the Imperial March for the first time, which was dope with the clones like we see a couple of the cruisers getting loaded up with a bunch of clones on Coruscant. And while the Senate and Bail Organa is sitting there going like, man, they made an army.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. But I guess one moment I do think of is they used it for some of the battle sequences in when they're escaping the planet in Phantom Menace, when they're in the Royal Star Cruiser running the blockade runner. No, I'm not gonna do that. Never mind.
It is. The score is always going to be good when it's John Williams. I don't think it sticks out as much as other movies, but it's John Williams. I mean, he's the greatest composer of all time.
The effects. I personally know. I don't know if you felt this, but I felt as though that a lot of the CG effects are bumped up marginally from the last movie. Massively.
Oh, massively. And they have remastered them. And the fact that it was made a few years later means it's going to be easier to remaster and look better. But it's better. And it's because George sat there and kept redoing the tech. He just kept making it better and better and better and getting his crew to do it. So it's just, but it is better. And I think Revenge of the Sith will feel the same. I don't think Revenge of the Sith, if I remember correctly, I don't think Revenge of the Sith feels like it's better, but it just feels really good. Like it's great CG and it holds up. This one I've seen all the prequels in the theater. I assume you have as well.
I have, yes.
Yeah, because it's just it's a dream to see all Star Wars movies in a theater.
Yeah, I didn't see all. Obviously, I mean, I wasn't alive for when the original releases come out, but I have seen every single movie in the theaters. Right as they did the big re-release of, or no, not the re-release. They did the showing of. Why am I forgetting the name of it? Force Awakens. They did like a big lineup of like running the old movies before that came out, and I was like, I got to take the opportunity to do this. And
they didn't
hopped in.
Do that for me, but I have seen Empire.
Oh, really?
Where we lived, they weren't doing that, but they showed Empire at the early of the pandemic when they wanted people to still go to the movies. They had one of those. So
keep me posted if back in the Valley they do actually decide to do some sort of like trilogy watch through, because there's part of me that would
Empire,
like.
But yeah, I'd drop $200 to go to watch that. Like that is a dream come true to watch all three of those in the theater. And man, Empire Strikes Back holds up better than Phantom Menace in terms of CGI and everything.
Right.
Yeah. But all right, so we should probably wrap this up. I assume we're over an hour.
Probably.
Yep.
Yep.
Tired
hour
boys.
12.
So I think we both are in agreement. This is lowest, and then it's Phantom Menace. We'd put this at 2, and Phantom Menace technically at 1 right now.
Currently, it is sitting at Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones at number 2 at the bottom of the stack.
Yeah. So, guys, it's late. Guys, if you're still watching, listening, make sure to check out everything we do here at Movie Meals and all the Happy Landing episodes. And drop comments in there. What do you think of that? What do you think of Attack of the Clones? How's it aged for you? You can find us on all platforms. Follow me on Twitter. All linked in the description. We do have a TikTok now. If you want to go do that, there might be videos popping up on the old Tiki Tooks. Man, did I just age myself so hard there?
Tiki Tooks, man.
Tiki Tooks.
Those kids in there, Tiki Tooks.
Fun fact: we're not super close now, but a kid I knew back in the day calls him Tiki Tooks, and he actually has a pretty big following on TikTok. Because he's an incredible artist, like an insane artist. But anyway, guys, thank you to our Movie Meal patrons. Go check out all our episodes. Great stuff dropping. It's now the Movie Meals Podcast Network. So there's going to be long form reviews. There's already Falcon Winter Soldier. Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut is up, as well as another Happy Landing. So go check all that stuff out. And yeah, for another Happy Landing, we're out of here.
Bye, Mom.